As a responsible person with growing concerns for your privacy and personal liberty, you want to know where we're headed and what you can do about it. We ask the experts what you need to do to take prudent and responsible action to safeguard your family's wealth and well-being, and what basic first steps will help you to be aware and prepared. ReluctantPreppers.com.
Welcome back, Reluctant Preppers. Tonight, our very special guest is Bix Weir, founder of RoadToRuta.com. Bix has spent over 30 years in the financial industry working with Fortune 500 companies. He's here today to talk to us about possible manipulation in the gold and silver markets, and specifically on the topic of where has all the gold gone. Bix, thank you for joining us here on Reluctant Preppers.
Hey, nice to be here, Dunnigan.
Now, I've been mystified, and perhaps a lot of our viewers have been as well over the past more than a year, that we seem to be running in this alternate reality of where the silver and gold prices are being lower than they've been in many years, and yet at the same time we're hearing about record demand for physical gold and silver, like out of China, out of India, central banks trying to repatriate their gold, Germany asking for their gold back, not being able to get it. I'm sure you can give us more insight into those things. But in the face of that, these prices being low seems to just fly in the face of all conventional wisdom about supply and demand. So if you could just kind of break this down for us and help us understand how in the world have we gotten to this place where it seems that the prices are lower than ever, but the demand is higher than ever. And what the heck, when everybody wants any physical gold, we even had the Mint call out that they had stopped production of Silver Eagles here due to lack of, having to interrupt their production. So can you just kind of break it down for us? What are the signs that, in fact, the demand is there? What's going on with it? Where's the physical?
Well, yeah, you touched upon the $50,000 question. As far as the question is, where's the regulators? I mean, the CFTC wrote 3 letters claiming there was no silver manipulation because the price of silver was always linked to the price of derivative silver, which is the COMEX, is always linked to the LBMA, which is the physical silver side. And now we have silver running out all over the world. All the mints are either delayed or way in backlog. There's silver coming out of the COMEX faster than you can blink an eye, and the silver price keeps going down and down and down. This clear manipulation by the large manipulators, and right now it was J.P. Morgan, as everybody knew from Ted Butler's work. I pointed out a few years ago that short position, the gigantic short, went over to Citibank, who now currently holds it. Citibank, at the very beginning of this year, added $50 billion to its precious metal short, other precious metal, not gold, which is mostly silver. And that number is just ridiculous. I mean, if you look at the grand scope of our regulators who are trying to claim that we have freely traded markets, we're the laughing stock of the world as far as regulation. We're the laughing stock of the world as far as our media and our many of the experts in gold and silver saying, no, there's no manipulation. That's blatantly false. We've proved it. GATA's proved it 100 times. I've proved it 100 times. And it's getting, I wouldn't say tiring, but it's getting more visible. And now they don't even care because there's no regulator that's going to stop them. So why even hide the fact that they're rigging the market lower while the supply is going down the toilet? And all this is doing is heading us towards a big implosion, which is probably less than a couple of months away, where they're going to close the COMEX and close the LBMA, and everybody's going to throw their hands up and say, oh, we didn't know this big crash was coming. We'll have to zero out all positions and we'll try to start again. Well, no one's going to allow them to start again. Those who set up and control the current gold and silver markets won't be the ones deciding on who's going to create the next markets after this crash.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you next is, I mean, when you have short sellers on stocks or short sellers on any commodity or anything, eventually you either better be right or you're going to lose your shorts. So I didn't mean to make a pun, but you're going to lose all your funds. It's so these people.
Funds are not the problem for these guys. I mean, they create money out of thin air. You're talking the backing of the Federal Reserve and the U.S. Treasury. These banks, they have quadrillions in derivatives. The funds are not the problem. The problem is that there's nobody watching over them and telling them, no, you can't dump 1 billion ounces of silver on the market in a matter of seconds. They can do anything they want to put the price wherever they want because there's no rule of law anymore.
So how does that, you say that the way that plays out is you'd have some catastrophic disruption in the markets and some because it doesn't seem like that ends in any kind of a logical unwinding. I mean, how could you unwind that deep of a position?
Well, you can't unwind it. That's why it's been growing and growing and growing since the invention of electronic silver and electronic gold, and basically since the introduction of computers in the 60s and 70s. You see this growth in the derivative market, the futures and options, and all the swaps and every kind of financial engineered derivative of the real stuff, of the real silver and the real gold. That's what's being priced now. It's not physical silver. It's not physical gold. We very well might see the complete disappearance of gold and silver, where you can't buy any gold or any silver at any amount, and yet the COMEX and the LBMA are still telling people that silver's beneath $15 an ounce and gold's beneath $1,200 an ounce. That's how disconnected these markets are now from the reality of physical gold and silver.
Well, I have noticed over the past 3 or 4 years, as the price of silver, for example, has dropped from mid-40s down to mid-teens, that the premium, for example, that you need to pay to get, for example, American Silver Eagles has not dropped, and in some cases has risen to where you just can't get physical at the or close to the spot price. If you're looking at American Eagles now, back when it was up in the 40s, the premium was like 8% over spot. Now it's 20 or more percent over spot.
Yeah, and that'll happen. Every time Jack Lew shuts down the U.S. Mint from producing Silver Eagles, you see a spike in the premiums, and if he reopens the production of Eagles, which he supposedly is doing today, the 27th, and it's Jack Lew, the head of the U.S. Treasury, he's the only one who can tell the U.S. Mint to stop producing Silver Eagles. So you would think with the price dropping, there would be massive amounts of silver available to make Silver Eagles, but that's the exact opposite reason why he shut down the U.S. Mint production of Eagles. He shut it down because he didn't want all the silver going out the door at these low prices. So he's basically trying to manage the price of silver, which is illegal under the U.S. commodity laws. But of course, we have no regulators to walk into Jack Lew's office and arrest him for that.
What about these other stories of, for example, Germany asking for their gold back and being told you can't have it for years? Are there other examples like that? And what the heck is going on there? Why can't they just give it back to them?
Well, the secrets that are in the gold market are phenomenal, and they're both on the long side and short side as far as physical. I mean, the amount of German gold that supposedly is out there that the U.S. won't give back is much less than what is traded every day on the LBMA and transferred supposedly in real gold on the LBMA. So, what's the problem with giving the Germans their gold back if every day supposedly on the LBMA that amount plus more is transferred on the LBMA? The markets are completely false. What's going on behind the scenes is a reshuffling of where the gold is. There's a lot more gold out there than people are saying, than the banks and the GFMSs of the world and all the mainstream analysts say there's only been about 180,000 tons of gold ever mined in the world, which would take up 2 Olympic-sized swimming pools. Completely ridiculous. The number was made up in the 1960s by Harry Oppenheimer, who owned GFMS at the time, and he got his accountants to compile these numbers. Well, Harry Oppenheimer is the same guy who owns De Beers Diamonds, and it's all about rigging the quantity so that the price of your commodity is higher than what it is. There's all kinds of stories and actual proof of massive amounts of gold in Asia with Yamashita's gold. Who knows how much that was? That was rumored to be over 300,000 tons. How much gold is in the Grand Canyon? They found millions and millions of tons in the Grand Canyon in the early 1900s. It is still off limits to anybody to go in there. It's guarded by the U.S. Marines. Marines, and no one can go in there, not even presidents. And they've been holding this gold and other gold, Chocolate Mountain in California, in a military base, supposedly in the late 90s or early 90s. They flew all these senators out there because they had this gigantic gold mine, and they put it in a military base and said, we're not going to do anything with this gold until after people stop accepting these pieces of paper. So we have there's a lot hidden in the gold world. A lot of it's starting to come out, but don't believe anything you hear about, when you hear numbers of, they can't get 10 tons of gold or 15 tons of gold or even a couple hundred tons of gold, because that amount of gold supposedly transfers every day on the LBMA.
Is the same true in your mind for availability of silver then? Some people even said, I've heard that silver is actually scarcer as an investment metal to get a hold of than gold. Is there any truth to that?
I believe there's a lot of truth to it for various reasons. One, pretty much all the gold that's been dug out of the ground is still around, and most of it goes into jewelry or in an investment form like bars and coins. It's not consumed like silver is. Silver is all consumed, not all, but a large portion of it, in electronics and flat screen TVs and solar panels. The estimates are there's about 1 to 2 billion ounces of silver that are left in the world, whereas in gold there's over 5 billion ounces, if you believe the Harry Oppenheimer story. So yeah, I do believe. Don't look at price, because price is artificially set on the COMEX and the LBMA. They've been controlling the prices since day one. If you want to think of a more realistic price, look at the supply and demand numbers. Look at the amount in the ground. I think it's 12 to 1 ratio. Right now it's over 70 to 1 ounces of silver to buy an ounce of gold. But remember, that has to do with the in-ground availability. Above ground, it's a 1 to 1 ratio pretty much, and that's kind of the big question. Once silver and gold are stopped being rigged by these guys on the COMEX and the LBMA, where will the price settle out? I think it'll be closer to the 10 to 1 ratio. So silver will go up at least 7 times the amount that gold goes up. But you could also see very easily see a ratio closer to 1 to 1, because in actuality, there's very, very little secret silver out there, and there's a whole lot of secret gold.
So on the surface, it would look like this is a screaming opportunity for people who are going to go against the conventional thing of when something is out of favor, it's of low worth, so you should go ahead and be a contrarian investor and accumulate silver, especially at these prices. Is it really that straightforward, or is this somehow kind of a double head fake reverse, and there's something else that we should be considering that we're not seeing coming?
Well, there's 100 great reasons to invest in silver, and that's one of them. Yeah, it's always fun to buy things when everybody else hates them, but there's 100 other real good fundamental reasons to buy silver. As far as where the price will go is a completely different question, because the price is controlled and manipulated and run off computer programs that have been implemented for decades. So it's always a great time to buy silver in my book if you're willing and able to ride out any dives. Like with computers, you can set the price of silver to 0 with a click of a mouse, and you can set it to $1 million an ounce with a click of a mouse as well. So it's kind of the silver game is to buy your silver, close your eyes to price, and then wait for the end of these exchanges, which I believe is going to come in the next few months. You
mentioned there's some extremely good reasons to own silver. What are some of the top ones that come to mind?
The top one for me, the number one reason to buy it is because it's artificially manipulated and so low in price. But some of the great reasons, it's a great monetary metal. It's both a monetary metal and an industrial metal. It's used in, if you think cell phones are the wave of the future, there's silver in every single cell phone, every single flat screen TV, every tablet, and all that silver is consumed. As in, when you throw away your tablet or your cell phone, very rarely do people try to go for the 100th of an ounce of silver that's located in that, or 1,000th of an ounce of silver. So silver is consumed and literally thrown away. I think that'll be a big change when silver goes to say $1,000 an ounce. We might stop throwing away, the flat screen TVs and instead have them, bring them in to recycle the silver out of them. But right now at $14-15 an ounce, no one's going to melt down their cell phone for the silver. There's medical reasons. It's a great antibiotic. Before the days of penicillin, they used silver. They used to put silver dollars in all the milk cartons because it kills all the germs. And I still use colloidal silver to this day, even though the EPA says it's not good for the environment, which is ridiculous. And all the pharmaceuticals hate colloidal silver, but it's great to use for getting rid of any kind of germs you're trying to get rid of. And all the bad talk of the end of photography, the silver film photography, all that talk. Photography, old style photography is pretty much dead, but a lot of that was recycled. The silver was recycled out of the film, so net it's not a big difference in the amount of new applications and new technologies that silver is just amazing to be used in. It's the best conductor of electricity, and let's face it, our world is an electric world now. So a lot of this stuff is growing and growing and growing, although photography is kind of going away. But then again, you got photography is changing to electronic photography, which is also a consumer of silver. So, I mean, even the worst case stories about silver, which is basically the photography story, net, there's so many positive things that there is nothing to stop silver in the future except for the price rigging by the official price rigging by the government and the unofficial price rigging by the bullion banks.
Yeah, for those of our listeners who are interested in following up on the colloidal silver medical benefits, our off-grid medical doctor Jay Nielsen on some of our other episodes here on Reluctant Preppers talks about it as a effective antibacterial, antiviral. And I also remembered when you were talking about scarcity, a talk by either Mike Malone or David Morgan, I can't remember which, talking about if you look at the actual available remaining silver that hasn't been consumed industrially, that's still available for investing above ground, and divide it by the world population, you get something like 1/14 of an ounce per person. So what does a scenario look like when confidence in fiat currencies collapses and the world's population wants to turn to something that's tangible and proven when there's only 1/14 of an ounce per person to go around?
And it's true. And if you look at the USGS has a periodic table of all the metals and all the minerals and natural resources, and they look at the total in-ground reserves versus the consumption rate, and they have a chart where they compare them all. And if you look at it, the number one metal, the number one commodity, the number one natural resource that will go away in our lifetime at this consumption rate and with the current reserves is silver. And that, I believe they peg it at around 18 or 19 years. If the price stays low, we keep consuming silver at our rate based on what they've found in the ground so far, we got 18, 19 years of silver left, and then it's all gone. Now, obviously, the reserves can change as the price goes higher. Even the reserves go up because they become economical to mine and things like that. But by far, silver, out of all the other metals and elements, will be consumed first out of everything on Earth.
Now, I can't let you go without pressing you a little bit back on this prediction that you've made about it may be as soon as a few months until there's a huge disruption in the markets. What specifically leads you to see that at this time?
Well, I wrote about it in both my books that are available online on my website, and it has to do with a few things. Number one is the end of the U.S. fiscal year is the end of September. I always keep an eye on that point in time because the U.S. is running this show, and they can decide at any point to end the game with their computers by either selling off, buying physical silver or allowing the law to be upheld that they have to buy physical silver in quantities demanded. But there are other big things. What's going on with the derivative market in Europe. Many reports coming out of Europe saying the derivative market is blown sideways. Deutsche Bank is holding a really ugly book. They fired the two CEOs of Deutsche Bank a couple months ago. If you look on the religious and IMF side, the Jewish Shemitah is coming up, which is the seventh. This year's the seventh of the 7-year cycles. And whether or not you believe in the religious side of it or not, there are people within the financial system who are devout Jews who live and breathe by the book according to the Jewish religion. And according to that religion in the Shemitah, you have to forgive all debts every, I think it's 49 years as the Jubilee. That's coming up on September 13th. Christine Lagarde of the IMF even gave this strange speech about the magic number 7 and the 7-year cycle and numerology. And she is as well a devout Jew and follows the Jewish religion. And you get to looking at who are the close followers of the Shemitah, and you're looking at Janet Yellen of the Federal Reserve. You're looking at Jack Lew of the U.S. Treasury. You're looking at almost every single head of every single large banking institution, and they are very devout in their religion. And I do believe that that's going to be part of it. And then you get down to other issues and look at Martin Armstrong's economic confidence model, which he has basically a big turning point at the end of September. And you just look at Greece. I mean, all you have to do is look at Greece, and everybody's saying, "Oh, they got bailed out." Well, apparently the money that they restocked the banks with is now gone once again, and they have to get another loan, and they're trying to work out a deal, but they say it's going to be 4 weeks if they get it all done. And truthfully, the people of Greece aren't going to last 4 weeks. Right now, they're basically on rations. They've jacked up their VAT, their value-added tax, to 15 to 25% on normal items. So, people in Greece are learning that the bailout option wasn't as nice and pretty and fun as might have been projected. Actually, what they're doing is they're learning that it's better to say, go away, banker. We're done with you. Let's start fresh.
Well, Bix, it's been great to have you on our initial visit here on Reluctant Preppers, sharing, your perspectives on things with our audience. And I guess if we could make a little friendly wager that we'll love to have you back on here in October and talk about what did or didn't happen and what you're seeing at that time. We'd sure love it if we could have you back. Sure.
Sounds like fun.
All right. If people want to find out more of your work, where should they find you?
You can go to roadtoruta.com, sign up for there's free emails, and there's also there's a couple books that I'm selling that tells all this stuff I've been talking about, tells how it came about and who's doing it and when it's going to end and why I think it's going to end. And so, roadtoruta.com.
Thank you for joining us on Reluctant Preppers to talk about where has all the gold gone, Bix.
Thank you.